Welcome to the Five Phenomenon Podcast. I am your host, Shane Hayes, and back with me again this week for the TV edition, Ted Heycraft.
Yes, I'm here.
Your energy level is just blowing me away. Coming up, part 2 of our TV G.O.A.T series, The Singing Detective.
Where did the GOAT start being bandied about?
I always heard it with the argument of Michael Jordan versus LeBron James.
Huh? That's new.
Because the argument, you know, who's the greatest of all time, and particularly in basketball, and then it translated over into Peyton Manning versus Tom Brady. It's a sports thing.
Oh, okay.
Okay. No, actually, sports are going to come up in my. What did you watch this week? What did you watch this week?
Two films of interesting import. Coogan's Bluff. A new release on Blu-ray of Clint Eastwood's 1968 film.
Is that Siegel?
It's Don Siegel. It's his first collaboration with Siegel.
Oh, the first.
First, yes, and it's an interesting film. It's a film I saw 5,000 times. The drive when I was a kid, that drive in the neighborhood. But I know the film backwards and forwards and inside out, and there's a lot to talk about that film sometime. There's actually 2 audio commentaries that I won't go into
The one was the Alex Cox one.
Yeah, and then but the other one, Alan Spencer from Sledgehammer creator.
You said was pretty good too.
Really, he was adding a lot when I sampled of that. And then I got to the theater last night and saw 9 Days.
I saw 9 Days. I meant to talk about it last week. What'd you think?
How did you see it?
AMC.
Yeah.
AMC Carasodas?
Yeah. No, it's not Carasodas.
I still call it Carasodas.
I know, but AMC bought it out.
Right.
It wasn't Carasodas chain originally.
Right.
No, I enjoyed it. I was, I mean, it is what it is. It's very artsy, you know.
Spike Jonze, executive producer.
Yes. I enjoyed the music. The actors got to really chew the scenery.
There's some really touching stuff in it.
Yes.
The trick for me is I have a problem with its premise, where it brings a scarcity mindset to souls. So, and then it makes them, the whole premise is that these 5 souls have to compete for a spot to become alive. And you're just like, why do they need to compete the whole time? And all the drama is based around this idea that it's sad that these people will not become, these souls will not get to live if they don't get picked. And you're just like, why?
Because I
was that way.
Well, I quickly figured out that they wanted to get to the other part of the story as opposed to the back of the premise, the foundation of what of the world, whatever this thing we're watching.
It's a uniquely the main guy oversees these souls that he's allowed to become lives, and he watches them through TV and VHS, and he records their lives and their memories, and it's trying to make him more efficiently to figure out. And then this argument is are you tough enough to be live a life versus are you too sensitive to live a life?
Yeah.
I had problems with that.
No, I didn't have a problem. I mean, I enjoyed it. I mean,
because it's a well-made, really touching movie.
Yeah, good music, good soundtrack, cinematography, and then I thought the last final scene was really strong.
Yeah, the ending was good.
Oh, and besides those 2 movies, I wanted to say something about our last episode on the GOAT thing, if I can.
Okay, sure. You want an addendum?
An addendum here. This
is a mulligan.
I actually wrote that on my notes. Addendum to the prisoner. Please, everybody, if you listen to, and I actually know somebody's already actually listened to it.
One whole person?
And he's actually heard all those stories. It's a friend of mine, so he's heard all that stuff for the last 20 years.
Okay.
But anyway, please, everybody, if you did listen to the prisoner episode, I hope you did. I hope you go back because that was my big pick of these trilogy we're doing. One thing we've heard about, Shane asked me about his career after the prisoner. The one thing I just couldn't believe I spaced out on, Escape from Alcatraz, 1979. Clint Eastwood's the plays Frank Morris, the one guy that got out, that escaped Alcatraz with a couple other guys, but we don't know whatever happened to him. We don't know if he died or they got away or whatever. But the Warden, and it's a Don Siegel film. It's their last collaboration. The Warden is played by Patrick McGowan, and they never call him by name in the film. In the film either.
So he might be a number.
So
number Warden.
Yeah, but anyway, so that was something I just couldn't believe I spaced out and didn't mention it, because that was just when that came out, I was like, oh my gosh, how perfect to cast this mean, tyrannical Warden be McGowan. The one thing he was always fighting in the village, so I thought that was beautiful. And then the kid, the Alex Alexis. How do you Alexis Canner, who played the kid in the Western episode, was number 48, the hippie, and the last one. He directed and wrote a film with in 81, and McGowan was a star for that.
What was it?
Kings and Desperate Men. So it was something that he worked on for a while, and then it was actually because of his friendship with McGowan.
Is it any good?
Yeah, it's okay. It's interesting. I think I was reading up a little bit on it today, and it's about he had actually sued the people who wrote Die Hard, because there's a Christmas element in it, and there's a ransom and a kidnap or whatever, but he didn't win it. So
isn't the book Die Hard's based on from the before that movie?
Probably. I don't know.
Okay.
I saw that really briefly. So, and if you indulge me, please.
This is turning into you had to ramp up, because you're, like I said, low energy at the front, but you're here now, Ted.
Well, it's McGowan, and
McGowan gets you going.
I want to say in 1959 he did a movie called Hell Drivers. This is pre stuff. He's with Sean Connery and David McCallum, The Man from U.N.C.L.E., James Bond, and Danger Man, all in the same movie. He actually is connected to Disney. Did you know that? The Three Lives of Thomasina. It's a movie about a girl and a cat. And he's the father in that movie.
Okay, I think I was going to think something with a cat.
It's a live action film period during that early
60s.
Yeah. And Dr. Sin, I guess the Scarecrow, which is a fantastic stuff.
About that.
It's based on these books where this is this kind of pirate character. Hammer did a film, but they had to change the name on it. But Disney did he did it as 3-part TV series, but also released it in the theaters. And he plays this. He's a priest. He's a vicar during Revolutionary War times on the English coast, and he's helping the revolutionaries. Real quick, we gotta get to the topic today.
You haven't even listened to anything I watched this week, too. But okay, sure, keep going.
I did a movie with Lee Van Cleef, and John Borman was originally a John Borman project. He still has a credit on it.
Huh.
Scanners with Cronenberg.
We brought up Scanners.
Did we? Okay. Another Touchstone film, Baby, Secret of the Last Legends, the dinosaur movie. Did you ever see that?
What is it?
Baby, A Secret of the Lost Legend.
No.
Yeah, it was one of those early Touchstone films that everybody was making a big deal. And The Phantom.
He's in The Phantom?
He's the father. He's Billy.
The Billy Zane
Phantom.
Phantom.
He comes as an apparition and talks to him, remember?
No. Well, because there's not much I remember about The Phantom, but...
And of course, he has got a Leone connection.
Are you doing an IMDb listing right now? You always say you don't.
You were asking me about him. I was kind of spacing out and drawing a blank, and it's not a high profile career, but Mel Gibson film, Leone connection, a Cronenberg film.
It's funny. Mel Gibson and TV is going to come up again this week too. But
yeah. But
I just feel like, Ted, you're not even interested in what I watched this week at all.
No, I am interested, but I just wanted to make sure that the people. That my McGowan and prisoner knowledge is.
If you happen to listen to the next episode after the prison episode, you will be assured Ted has.
Sorry, everybody, but we'll go back and listen to that too. And,
right. I'm glad you're selling other episodes. I just appreciate that.
Well, I had fun. I could talk about the prisoner all day. So.
I didn't really watch much this week too, so actually I shouldn't have fought for it. But
you've been reading a lot. Have you been reading a lot? Probably.
No, I've been trying to catch up on these TV shows.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But the one thing that was interesting, did you happen to watch the Field of Dreams game in baseball? Which I brought up sports earlier.
I work at a TV station. I saw the story.
It was Fox.
No, yeah, I know, but I know the story. It was making the news everywhere.
Okay.
I saw the stories about it, but I didn't know.
I only watched like the middle innings of the game. I'm still, God help me, a Yankees fan. Donnie baseball represent. But But the movie went up. Field of Dreams went up high on iTunes supposedly the next few days. And Field of Dreams, I don't know if you know this about me, Ted. That's a big movie for me.
How's that? Why is that a big movie for you?
The movie makes me bawl every fucking time.
Well, yeah, I mean,
and
yeah.
it was one of those VHSs we had at home, so we watched it a lot, and I watch it every few years, and it's still with just does not diminish.
I just didn't know if you had some kind of personal inroads.
I always think I want to play catch with my dad. Like that's a big thing with that. But it's funny because one of our past guests, Eric Gildy, he runs a podcast called "Take Me Into the Ball Game," and they did an episode on Field of Dreams that they didn't like it, and their podcast is based on it's with his wife Ellen Adair, and they do baseball, basically like how accurate is the baseball, and like one of the big things about that Shoeless Joe Jackson was a lefty, and they didn't get that right. So
I mean, to me, it's
which seems like a big one.
You know, my thing about it is it's one of Burt Lancaster's last film, if not his last film, or it's real close.
Well, okay. Did you see any of the? You should go look up on YouTube. Did you see anything from the game?
No, I just saw Costner out in the field talking to the players, and
that's the thing. The intro is the thing to check out because the game. Actually, the game was it ended up with a walk-off homer in the ninth, but which I didn't see. I only watched the middle, but it opens. It's such a bizarre. Costner walks out of the field to a normal stadium that's small. They build it adjacent to the actual field, and I want to say the whole video is like 5 minutes, and for the first 2 minutes, no one says anything, and it's just the Horner music. The James Horner music is what really the night James Horner died, I just sat on YouTube crying and listened to all his music. Like he gets me. And they play the horn, and his score for this is in particular is like him at peak tearjerker, and they just play this music over Costner walking through the field, just kind of like half acting, looking kind of confused, and then after 2 minutes, then the players walk onto the field
out of the cornfield.
Yeah, out of the corn. Yeah, and it's funny because the White Sox were wearing a retro uniform, and the Yankees wore, I guess that's their old uniform, but kind of not. They haven't really changed much through the years, but I think that might be record for our longest intro.
Well, again, apologies, but I had to get that.
No, that's on me. This is on me for all.
Well, I almost called you and told you to add stuff to the last episode. You know,
yeah, you did, and I was just like, it's fine, Ted. You know, because I find it funny sometimes we're just like, do we have enough for an episode? And without fail, almost every episode's like, I forgot something I wanted to say.
Yeah. Now this one might be interesting because I'm not sure how much we're going to say about this one.
All right, well, let's get into it. The Singing Detective. Dennis Potter's The Singing Detective. So what's funny is it's from 1986, but it didn't air in here until like 88, I think.
Yeah, a few years later.
But because Dennis Potter had a contract that said it couldn't be edited, and this movie had nudity and cussing in it and violence, the PBS wouldn't air it on Masterpiece Theater, and it ended up airing on some PBS stations, but very hit or miss.
That's interesting. Knowing the way I know Evansville, since I've been here since I was 5 years old, there's a good chance it didn't play here. Because
I didn't see until the DVD box that came out in 2003. When did you first see it?
Just when you said we're going to do.
You never watched it before.
It was my box set was still sealed. The original sticker price on it.
Wow. Had you seen the movie, the feature that's made of this?
No, I bought a used copy of the movie and never got around to watching it. I just knew. Well, it's interesting. You know, you said about greatest television. I saw Pennies from Heaven, the Steve Martin movie, not the series.
The Herbert Ross.
Yeah, Herbert Ross film here in town.
Bernadette Peters.
Yeah, and Jessica Harper, more importantly.
Oh, right.
But and Christopher Walken doing it.
I still argue to this day that I think Christopher Walken's greatest performance is that one scene. And especially if you're looking for trivia of like people who steal a movie with only one scene, his one scene in that movie is just amazing.
You gotta understand that I had a couple of good friends, and we'd all get together at this one friend's apartment, and we would watch things. I would bring things and or suggest things, or it got to a point where one of my guys would say, and you know who you are if you're listening. He goes, "You hate TV." And it was kind of a joke line that they would always bring that up because that said that I hate TV. Of course, I'm working at a TV station, which is the irony of all
Right, and
things.
we're doing a podcast on TV shows too right now.
But
Series.
I look back and I see there is a distinctive drop off from television watching when I started getting older, and automobiles in high school and activities and different things that happened in my life that that never lost the obsession over comics and films, but the TV took a back seat. So I have a very Achilles heel.
Well, part of the thesis of this series is, especially in the first 2 episodes, is there isn't a lot to bring you back.
Well, yeah, that's an interesting. We could go off on a tangent on that, but one of my good friends, Jim Alexander. I know he won't be.
He won't be listening.
No, he won't be embarrassed to say that he stuck with it. He stuck with TV, and he's a true blue TV fan, and was very dedicated to keeping up with what was happening on Saturday morning cartoons and all the fantasy, all the genre material that was coming out. And he would record it and have these, massive library of TV.
Well,
shows.
Our final episode in this series is when we're going to finally get to peak TV, but this is pre-peak TV. And okay, so
let me interrupt you and say that I wanted to say that I knew of it. I knew of Potter.
You did?
Yeah, I did not. Just because
of Pennies from Heaven.
Well, that, and plus, just because I did not stay faithful to television watching, I still try to stay aware of what was getting critical attention and what was the thing to see and things to watch over the years. So definitely the Singing Detective.
Did you see Gorky Park or his Alice in Wonderland movie? It was a Dreamscape.
I don't.
Dreamchild.
I don't think I've seen it all the way through. I've bumped up against it several times, and I even have a copy of it.
I became a huge fan of Dennis Potter after this, and it was sad because going through this, I realized it's still just Pennies from Heaven and this. That's all I've seen, really.
Really,
I haven't seen Gorky Park.
Well, yeah, it's like a lot of these guys, like Potter, and he was another big English.
There's all these people from Oxford, or who graduated from Oxford.
Yeah, there's a bunch of them that I've been meaning to check out, and I'm way behind, and it's an Achilles heel I have.
Well, so okay, the thesis behind this is being that TV wasn't good for a long time. We picked The Prisoner just because I thought I had heard some people say that, just put that as one of the best. Mainly, I knew you loved it, and I thought it'd be a good one for you to talk about, just because you'd be behind it. For years, I couldn't pinpoint who said it. But I'd read an essay, I think it might even been Alan Moore, who was mentioned a bunch in the last episode. And the last episode is going to come up a few times just because it's the second time we had a British import as our greatest American TV show. But Alan Moore, it was an essay where he said, he listed like what supposedly is everyone's kind of consensus top of the mediums. And he said Citizen Kane first, which I was like, okay, I can get that, even though Sight and Sound says that's no longer that anymore. So he said Citizen Kane, then he said Moby Dick for novels, and then he said The Singing Detective for TV shows.
Yeah.
And I've since seen more people just kind of, no one originated it, but more people. There's an essay on the DVD with David Bianculli, who's the TV critic for Fresh Air right now. I forget who he writes for. He says it too. He says, yeah, this is the greatest television show of all time. I mean, so.
So, do you agree?
I was blown away when I first saw it.
How long? Now, when did you see it again?
When it came out on DVD in 2003. And it was funny because I also rewatched the Singing Detective feature. You still haven't seen it. You said you
well, I remember I brought that up to you several I don't know, months ago, weeks ago, and you rolled your eyes and you're like, don't worry, don't you're not missing much, or don't worry.
I watched it today, and it's tricky because I've never seen all of the Pennies from Heaven miniseries. I've seen only maybe the first 2 episodes of it, and I love the movie to death. But so the Singing Detective movie is a little too stylized. I think it's kind of a hat on hat, and also it was filmed and released like 9 years after Potter died. So
and it pretty much disappeared. It's
got an amazing cast too, which is sad.
Right. Well, yeah. When you look at the cast and you just go, "What happened to this? Where did this?"
It was. You were talking last week about Mel Gibson being one of the people that wanted to do a Prisoner remake. Mel Gibson is in The Singing Detective, and it was Icon, his production company, that put it out. But this. I remember distinctly rewatching this series how I just never. I watched this right as peak TV was really. Sopranos is 99, and then you start getting 6 Feet Under. Buffy was a really big show at the time. West Wing was going strong, but I remember wanting. I had a real hunger for stuff I wanted to work on, write, and see. I wanted to see novelistic film, and this was up until then the most novelistic thing I'd seen, and now we have it in droves.
Yes. What? Can I back up a little bit? You said something like you were mentioning Buffy, which was a CW show, right?
It moved around. It was WB, and then after its 5th season, went to the CW.
And where does Twin Peaks fall into this?
I never watched Twin Peaks. I've seen only the first season. I've only seen the first season of Twin Peaks. I still haven't seen that second season finale, and I have you right next to me is the box set for the 3rd season, but
okay, because there's like these certain markers in TV history,
right,
and Twin Peaks is another one that I'm thinking. Of course, I think
Twin Peaks had the reputation for me of like as soon as they solved the murder, then supposedly it lost its energy. Everyone kept telling me that.
Well, in other words, it could have been
and people don't like, and a lot of people up at the time didn't like the movie, although people appreciate it now, I think.
Yeah, well, the movie's been rehabilitated somewhat, and then the TV. That's interesting because now, in this day and age, if David had done it now, the first season might have just been one season and on HBO or somewhere instead of being on network. And network, give us another season. We want to make money. Well, we made so much money on the first season.
Part of the
money. I
mean, it's going to be a consistent theme that like I just network TV is death to me. Like the serialized network format just doesn't seem like it's conducive to creative stuff, and it still barely is. Like,
which serialized on network TV?
Yeah,
not on HBO or
the HBO stuff.
Streaming
or.
Netflix.
Cable. Yeah, well, cable. Originally cable. And now streamers.
Well, cable, even though some cables had commercials, cable channels.
I think, I don't know if there was a policy they could rerun stuff a little easier as why. Because, I mean, like, HBO in particular had a policy of re-airing their episodes, so you can watch serialized stuff easier.
You pretty much agreed that Sopranos is like the ground zero, for the most part, of peak, what do you call it? You were calling peak TV.
I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, I think there's an argument if you're going to give HBO the credit for this. Oz predates this slightly.
Oh, really? Does it? It does predate Sopranos?
Yeah, it's like about a year or two. But yeah, it's where TV started feeling like, I don't know, for lack of a better thing, entertaining art film.
Yeah, where we're at now, as opposed to the little.
We're in it now. Well, yeah. No, in fact, I feel like. We're starting to get out of it just because there's too much content and so many shows are spinning their wheels. Like, and it's funny because I always tell people like, man, I'm not watching anything right now. And then I'll list off a litany of shows I'm watching. But back to Singing Detective. 6 episodes. It's 6 episodes. The first episode is, I won't say dry, but it's also just like, it's structured in a way where the whole show is done like a detective story as done by a psychologist detective, where it's a man who's got psoriasis, it's a really bad skin disease, and he refuses to take a lot of the treatments for it, which causes him a lot of bad fevers. And so he's a writer who's written a detective novel that he's in his head rewriting the story for a screenplay. But because he won't take these treatments, he has these fever dreams where everything starts mixing. Like almost every character on the show, it plays 2 or 3 different characters, and you're never sure what reality is, except for the main character, whose name is Philip Marlowe. And he complains
without the E.
Yeah, he complains that he wishes his parents named him Christopher. But and you were going to say something, Ted?
No, I was actually going to say you probably should, for our listeners who
synopsize.
Yeah, give them the premise here, and you're doing that's what you're doing somewhat.
But Dennis Potter was a apparently very brilliant writer who wrote a lot of stuff, and this is his kind of peak achievement. But I don't know if the misogyny is a part of his name. It's definitely in Pennies from Heaven, and it's just he's angry at women amongst other things else, and he's angry at his mother. He's angry at his ex-wife. He's angry and it's weird because there's so much about basically when you have a main character who's a writer and the piece has a chief author, it's pretty easy to jump to this is going to be autobiographical, even though Potter distinctly says he had this disease too. He had this psoriasis disease, but he still says like that's the only main autobiographical stuff, even though he's from the same area. The series goes into his mother leaving his father and going to London for a period of time. The same thing happened to him, only unfortunately, instead of issues with his mother, his uncle sexually abused him. But something big happened to him when he was 10 years old, going to London from his main area. There's a lot of autobiographical elements here and other stuff. And anyway, in the first episode, it's the tease. There's a shot about 10 minutes before the end of the first episode that hints at this, but it ends on a boy in a tree. And that's the first hint that we're going to start seeing the main character's real background. Because up until that point, it's him redoing his detective novel. And it's mixed in with the hospital. And people burst into song. And Dennis Potter has the particular musical style. He's done a lot of musicals like Pennies from Heaven, but he does that particular style where people lip sync.
Yeah, which we need to describe, which we need to point out that this is what one of Potter's trademarks, one of his tropes is, especially songs from the 40s, primarily the 40s.
One of the weird things watching the movie again today is it's 50s music in the movie, but this and Pennies from Heaven is like 30s and 40s.
40s and you'll be in a normal situation, and all of a sudden everybody breaks out in song, but the thing is they're lip syncing the 78 RPM or the 33 and a third RPM, vinyl.
I was really blown away and loving it still fulfills the obligation of a musical where when someone needs to say something they can't say to a person normally, the music then does that.
I was wondering, would that trope started, as Potter's kind of known for that because of his two main things, Pennies from Heaven and Singing Detective. I was actually thinking about Andy Kaufman when he first showed up on the scene.
The Mighty Mouse?
He did the Mighty Mouse. And I'm thinking, where did that kind of shtick started? I mean, I think Jerry Lewis actually did it originally before he got going with Dean. I think he lip sync records, I think.
And then whenever I try to describe it to people, I'd want to use the phrase jukebox musical, but that's not what a jukebox musical is.
No, yeah. So should I even, since we're talking about the music, should I mention I think it's the first song.
I think it's the first song. How crazy is it that that's 2 episodes in a row? Dim Bones?
Dim Bones.
What is it with the British and Dim Bones?
The Prisoner.
Yeah.
Like I said, I encourage you to listen to last episode.
It's a series. It's okay. It's all one piece.
The main song that sing and they lip sync it. The kids lip syncs it in the Fallout, the Prisoner episode, is a version of Dim Bones. It's also known as Dry Bones or Dim Dry Bones. There's the guy has, and it dates back to like the 20s, but the recording the Prisoner uses it by the Four Lads, and then the one in Singing Detective is a version from the 40s by I actually wrote down.
I didn't write down too many notes except on the songs except the first and last song of the whole series.
So I was kind of like chuckling about that because I know I really bludgeoned Shane with my love for the Prisoner, and here we go. We got connections I can already tie it into.
Yeah. So
I have 2 other Prisoner tie-ins too.
We'll get to them. What did you think of this, Ted?
I enjoyed it. I think your expectations were high because of the reputation it had. I like to see a better restoration of the thing. It's
rough. It has that.
It's an old DVD.
It has that PAL. Even though it's shot on film, it has that PAL thing that like you would see in Masterpiece Theater. And I was looking up. Apparently, originally Potter wanted it to be shot on video sitcom style with the flashbacks in black and white.
And he was thinking, which is another. I'm in the middle of watching another TV series from England that has Leo Mulkern in it from our pal from The Prisoner, Rumpole of Bailey, and the sequences outside are in film, and the sequences on the inside are video.
Isn't that kind of a BBC
Yeah,
British
yeah,
thing?
yeah.
Like,
Well, that's what
Monty Python's kind of that
it's
way.
been a
isn't it?
long time since I've watched a lot of BBC, and somebody goes, "Yeah, that's what it used to be." Like, oh yeah, sort of. So I think Potter thought it was going to be like that, and the black and white, like you mentioned. But then they talked him out of it. I think the director, John Emile.
We need to talk about this because John Emile was kind of a studio guy in the 90s. Like his movies include Summersby, Entrapment, and the big one was, I think, was his last big Hollywood thing, was The Core. Do you remember that?
Oh yeah.
It was about them going to the core, going to the core of the earth.
Yes.
What's his name? Aaron played
Aaron Eckhart.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think early on though he was an interesting director.
He went back to TV after this. I was looking at his credits. One of his most recent ones is he actually did American Gods, doing American British hybrid for Neil Gaiman.
But yeah, he's an interesting. But yeah, like you said, he kind of looks like he kind of started going into the big studio route.
But it's still a TV director. Like he's still like someone who services the writer here more than anything else.
Oh yeah, no, true. No.
It's fascinating just because the Singing Detective movie is directed by Keith Gordon.
Yep.
Yeah, Keith Gordon. Yeah. He's come up on a few episodes. He's in All That Jazz. He came up on our Brian De Palma episodes, and it's funny because I haven't seen too many of his movies, but he's a very ambitious. He's taken on a lot of novelistic stuff. He did Mother Night, a Kurt Vonnegut adaptation.
Yep.
And again, it's just unfortunate because the movie just is like a grab bag of stylization and just all over the place, and yet the TV show feels of a piece. Like,
oh yeah. I was going to say that too. I was reading.
It feels like it was rewritten a bunch.
I read some articles. I did read a few articles the last couple of days, and then one person pointed out how a lot of these TV series, as great as they are and as good as they are, they have showrunners and they have different directors, and they have all these multiple hands. Which I'm always amazed at if the unity of the feel of the show comes out as it does. And here you got one director on all 6 episodes, and so I think there's
one writer, one director.
Yeah, there's one very a clarity that you get in this. You asked me how I felt about it. I'm thinking that I love I love the mixture of like, where are you at, and who is this doppelganger, and are we back in the mind, or are we on is he writing this, or is he doing this, or blah blah blah. And of course, now we see that all the time, and those kind of tropes. Here in '86, I'm thinking, what did we have back in '86? It would be very specialized if something would be a metaphor, or something would be not what you wanted to be, or whatever. I think it used to be. It wasn't thrown at you like this throws you at.
One of the things I did think is that people have started to do this in a more sharper way since then. But at the same time, this is what blew me away when I first saw it, especially knowing that it was, when I first watched it, it was 17 years old. And Potter's talked about it's a very specifically, when I found in my experience that doing nonlinear stuff, it's hard to plan out doing nonlinear stuff. You have to mostly see if it works in editing. And he's a very writerly version of this. Like, he writes down the jumping back and forth. And it's the hardest part about the show is it's really hard just because it's a fever dream. Like, it's hard to grapple on with, like, what am I following? Like, there's 3 levels. There's the hospital, there's the detective plot, and then there's his real life flashbacks. And the detective story changes like multiple times what it is, and never resolves.
Right. No, there's the resolution's interesting. Did you think? Did you listen to any of the commentaries?
I didn't. I meant to.
I stuck it in, and it was the producer and John, the director, talking, and it was one of the interesting things about these different levels that you just pointed out. Mm-hmm. They said they kind of thought the music scenes were like an elevator shaft, the elevator to one floor to another position.
I get that in theory, but I don't know how that actually...
I don't know. Yeah, I'm not sure if it held up exactly like that. Because,
right. And in the feature, it really is all over the place. Mm-hmm. It's really rough in the feature. You know who one of the executive producers on this and who worked with Dennis Potter for many years? Rick McCallum, the man who produced the Star Wars prequels for George. It was George Lucas's producer for years.
Well, I forgot to mention in our last episode of The Prisoner, David Tomlinson, a very intricate part of the
Right, he was a AD for Star Wars.
second unit in ADs for all the big guys. I mean,
He became one of Spielberg's go-to in England.
Yeah, exactly. So we over that was an oversight on our part not to mention him because he is.
This isn't just the TV part too; it's the prisoner part too.
Yeah, or it just all blends in together, you know.
Well, it is one series.
But yeah, because a lot of kids that would never get near a prisoner episode or the singing detective, but these guys, but there are people that worked on these things that worked on their films they love to death, you know.
Uh-huh.
So
I mentioned I don't know if Potter had the reputation for misogyny. I think one of his other series had a reputation for it, but like one of the weird researching him was he married young and stayed married his entire life, and he's one of those couples who his wife died just a few weeks before he died. He ended up dying of pancreatic cancer. Supposedly it might be from the drugs he was taking for his skin stuff.
Well, you might want to watch. Did you watch the features on the?
I did. I did watch those.
Yeah, because they talk about that, all the wife and the girlfriend and the women and.
Well, but did I miss something or?
I think you're.
Because this whole thing is about anger towards women and him getting over anger.
But didn't he have some affairs even though he stayed married the same? I mean, they didn't divorce.
That sounds right. Because there was also stuff in the behind the scenes where they were just like celebrating him for like he appreciates the female form and the female figure, and isn't that just like justifying someone for like commodifying his actresses?
Yeah. Well, we're gonna
not obviously
Yeah, we're gonna within the society we live in now and the council canceling things out. We're gonna bump up against.
But this was in the 80s. This wasn't like some people redone it.
But yeah, this stuff goes up to the 90s, man. I mean, it's all these different things that go on now. The people got away with it all the time, you know.
Yeah, you can't take the heat, don't stay in the kitchen mentality. Fuck that shit.
Well, how about the point? Well, there's a sequence where a nurse has to put this cream on all his body, so she has to.
Isn't that the thing that starts out the first cue? Because she says there's a few. One of the nice things about the features when you watch it, you pick up like on what's the key lines that they felt was essential. And the first big one is whenever he's putting the cream on all over his skin, just because he looks like a Cronenberg, like the fly. There's just fly in this. And the first thing she says is like, "I have to move your penis to apply the cream," and then she jumps into song from that.
No, does she? I mean,
that's the first song. I don't know if that's Dim Bones, but
yeah, no, Dim Bones was when the consultants come in with the doctors and looking over him.
There's a music piece that plays.
He's in his diaper. Oh yeah, she's singing "I Got You Under My Skin." I think. I think it's the song you're thinking of. So anyway, she's applying the cream to his inner thighs and stuff, and he is going to. He's trying to prevent an erection as much as he can. So he starts laying off all these things that he hates or are boring, and or he doesn't want to think to keep him from thinking of sexual thoughts. And he brings in the Irish. He just says,
I don't remember that part.
And the director and the producer of the commentary talk about how he was xenophobic. He didn't care much for Ireland and Irish. Well, yeah. And so you get and then I love the fact he brings the Bible in, but he starts quoting Song of Solomon. So.
Well, because one of the things his neighbor. One of the other big differences between the movie and the miniseries is the differences between the two medical systems. And like, so he has his own private room in the movie, but he's in an open ward, and his neighbor is this guy named Ali. He's like from Pakistan and then he starts on an immigration rant on there too, which the first episode really stacks the deck about him being angry and bitchy. And then the whole series is about him trying to figure out his issues. And what's fascinating, I rewatched the last episode today, like it's structured in an interesting way where it tries to like detective clues, like the detective story being the whole basis for everything. You get clues, and like he talks in terms of like not resolutions, clues but not resolutions.
Mm-hmm.
But then you keep finding out one detail that like you don't know why you've been seeing this over and over and over until finally it's dropped in a very innocuous way. One of the first big scenes in the last episode is just a very unadorned, basic back and forth. There's a psychologist character that's just.
Yeah, I want to talk about him.
Okay.
But
but it's a conversation with him, and he just unloads in the most common way, like the three big mysteries you've been finding, like stuff with the mother, what is on the desk, and what else did he say? Where the Mark Benny thing came earlier.
Yeah.
Again, all this stuff blends together.
Oh yeah, no, it's very.
It's hard to. It is hard to differentiate.
And I didn't watch all of it. You've watched it more fresh than I have. So,
what were you going to say about the psychologist?
Well, first of all, I got to say,
because Mel Gibson plays a psychologist in the movie.
Well, the psychologist in this one is a wonderful, wonderful guy named Bill Patterson.
Mm-hmm.
I love this guy, but I've always loved him. I discovered him in Comfort and Joy, Bill Forsythe's follow-up to Local Hero.
Okay.
And he's just wonderful in that. And then I was writing down some things. So he's in Munchausen, and he's in the Return of the Musketeers. So he's in a Gilliam film and a Lester film.
I didn't know he was in Munchausen.
Yeah.
I don't remember him.
Yeah. Then
does he have that beard, that really thick, nice beard?
I don't think he's gonna. What is his character?
He's got a great beard.
Yeah. He's in. Did you watch Good Omens?
I've watched.
Apparently, he's in that. I have not seen that.
I don't know if I've seen the pilot of that or not.
But you know, the one thing you probably. I can't believe you haven't. Oh, I see that light bulb go off in your eyes.
What?
Fleabag.
Is he the dad in Fleabag?
He's the dad. I was so happy to see that. That's one series I have seen, folks. And I go, oh, it's Bill Patterson, and he's been around forever.
Wow.
But he's very beloved in the UK. He's in a. If you see his IMDb, it's just tons of stuff. That's my other prisoner tie-in. The one-on-ones. That's that we got these segments in this series of 6 episodes. We go to a room where it's just the two of them,
mm-hmm.
and it makes me think of all the showdowns that, especially the second to last episode with McGowan and Leo McKern, just the two of them locked into a room, or some of the other duels with the number 2s he has. So that I know it's very tenuous.
What's funny is there is also it feels like a writerly prop to have a psychologist here, even though because it's physical therapy, and that's a writerly TV thing of we need to get a character on the screen, and let's have him talk to a psychologist.
But I thought was interesting. One of the articles says it's a good pro psychologist type.
It is. It's definitely, because the thing is everyone they keep acknowledging your physical ailment, you need to get your mental health straight before.
Well, did you figure it when they started doing the one-on-one here with him and Bill Patterson? I'm thinking, oh, here we go. It's gonna be this guy's gonna be a real jerk, and they're gonna be antagonistic, and it starts out that kind of way,
and then it's gonna gradually thaw. Which
no, I didn't think it was gonna thaw. I thought it was just I don't think he was gonna give in because of his character, the way he established his character.
It's like in between episodes he thaws.
Yeah,
it's gradual, but every episode he's nicer.
And so he actually ends up with a pretty good relationship with him. I thought, well, that's kind of nice.
Eventually by the end.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And I kind of like that. I just thought with the pedigree of the series, that those two would never come to a same place together.
That's why in Mel Gibson in the movie, he did a thing where he shaved his middle of his head, so he has he looks bald in it when he still had a pretty healthy head of hair, I assume. And so you knew that was probably the meaty role, but it's kind of like the Good Will Hunting, Robin Williams versus although this man's not a young angry man. He's just, although he acts like a young angry man. I thought you were going to say Alison Steadman. Alison Steadman's in a bunch of Mike Leigh movies.
Oh, well, I mean, yeah, if you want me to mention, this is what the fun thing I had watching this was going back to 1986 to see all these people showing up that I know from different ways now. First of all, there's, we got Michael Gambon. Should we talk about him?
Michael Gambon is...
Gambon, yeah.
Gambon. That was actually probably the biggest sell of the series. There was a period, if you asked me who my favorite actor was, it was Michael Gambon, just from the basis of this. Because I thought he was so fucking good in this.
Wow.
It's a very short period. It's a very, I've had trouble my whole life picking favorite actors.
Well, what's hilarious is that I know he really does not come thoroughly on my radar to the Harry Potter sense.
Well, up until this point, his big things are he has a little role in The Insider, but he's also in Gosford Park. Gosford Park's the talk of his IMDb.
Here, I wrote down the highlights. I said, I saw him on all these.
Mm-hmm.
Dry White Season. That's a Marlon Brando film.
Oh, okay.
I go, oh, okay, yeah. I can't remember him in that. Mary Riley, he's in that.
I think I knew that.
The Insider, like you said. Sleepy Hollow. I remember
He does not have a good accent in The Insider, unfortunately. He has a Kentucky accent that does not. Sleepy Hollow, yeah.
And Gosford Spark, and Open Range.
Oh, I think I did know he's in Open Range.
So,
but he takes over for Dumbledore, Richard Harris.
Yeah, and Sky Captain: The World Tomorrow.
I don't remember him in that.
Yeah, he's in that. But I just, it was like, he's to me, is because Richard Harris passed away. He's the guy who took over Harris. And now everybody loves him, and nobody remembers Richard Harris.
There's a bunch of big actors that started from Potter stuff. So Started.
No,
Bob Hoskins' first big breakout is the Pennies from Heaven miniseries.
I thought you said Potter.
Dennis Potter.
Oh, not the Harry Potter.
Harry. But also one of Potter's last series is called Lipstick on Your Collar, which is one of Ewan McGregor's first things.
So yeah, because we got to come on. And then Joanne Whaley is the wonderful looking nurse. Of course, she goes on right shortly after that. I saw her in Willow. But her big thing is Scandal, in that poster art.
Wait, was she married to Val Kilmer?
Yes.
Okay, I watched the Val Kilmer documentary, and she's in that.
Yeah, she's a hyphen. She had her name was Hyphen Kilmer. I don't know if she still retains that. She's been showing.
They divorced.
Yeah, but I mean, yeah. So then you got, like I said, Bill Patterson. Of course, the great Imelda Stanton.
That one was kind of blew my mind because I had no clue who she was, and then when I started recognizing her, I was like, "Wait, is that?
Do you know who her husband is?
Who?
Jim Carter.
Jim Carter,
the father in this movie.
Huh?
They're happily married. They're still married. They met in 83. Married to her. They've been married together since 83.
Mm-hmm.
And Jim Carter is a guy that you guys out there, I said here, you know his face. You see him in tons of English.
This keeps coming up. I feel like there's just generational acting. So I've been thinking about this lately, where like it's hard for me when I'm watching older films to pay attention to actors as much as I do when I was younger and they felt like my same age. Is that fair?
Say that again?
I grew up at 80s, 90s movies. I remember so many more actors from that, and every time I mention one of them, you kind of like, who's that? Or I get that vibe from you sometimes.
Really?
And it's usually like younger actors, and maybe like some TV that overlap.
Well, I'm probably just reacting that you're so taken by them. I would think I know.
Right, because that is one of the burdens of being a child of the 80s, where it's just like I grew up on some pretty terrible movies.
The Brat Pack.
I'm just talking 80 movies.
Yeah. But, so Imelda, of course, Vera Drake, that's her go-to role. But she's in Sense and Sensibility and Shakespeare in Love, which her husband, Jim Carter's in Shakespeare in Love, too. Remember?
And also Harry Potter.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, Harry Potter. And then, I want to say something about Harry Potter.
You want to say something about Harry Potter?
And then...
I got a take on Harry Potter.
And then early on, and like you said, Alison Steadman, tons of Michael Lay films. The interesting thing is Janet Sussman. She never got a career going in film, but she's a Nicholas Alexandra. She's the Alexandra, Nicholas Alexandra, a big Franklin Shafter film from 1971.
I don't know.
One of the big epic films.
Maybe is that one of those I'd recognize by poster but never saw?
I don't even know if I recognize the poster. In fact, it's so weird. That's the film that I found out that Brian Cox is in it playing Trotsky, and I'm like, what? When I watched it not too long ago. It was one of those big bloated epics that didn't do well, and it was
the things that caused Kubrick not to be able to make Napoleon.
Yeah, those kind of things happening. But she's a revered stage actress, and never got going. So it's like that's half the fun I had with Singing Detective. It's just seeing these people at different stages in their career that I had not discovered. The thing I want to say about Harry Potter, though, is it's a who's who. It's like the greatest hits of all the British actors of the go-to
right
in there. And I just wanted to mention that. I think the only person that I think missing in there is like Tim Roth. I don't think did one. But I think everybody, a young David Thewlis is in Singing Detective.
Yeah, Dave Thewlis makes and it's weird because he only has like one line, even because and they staged it so he was sitting next to I think it's Alison Steadman, and you're just like, oh, Dave Thewlis is going to have a line, and he doesn't.
Yeah, of course, he's another Michael Lay veteran, Naked. I never,
is it Michael or Mike Lee? No one.
Mike Lee. Yeah,
everyone calls him Mike Lee. Right?
Yeah,
I thought we did an episode on Mike Lee too.
Oh, you did, huh? I guess I didn't listen to that yet. But I'm a huge Mike Lee fan. I just got the criterion of.
If the hosts aren't listening to all the episode, what's the hopes for?
Well, no, I'm kind of I'm the sporadic co-host.
Yeah. So I think one of the interesting things about the show, in theory, is that part of the reason it feels so novelistic is because it feels so long. But at the same time, it's not really long. It's not that long. But
No.
you think that like they'd be able to compress it, but the feature, again, I don't think works nearly as strong.
There are so many layers that you're shuffled through all these different layers back and forth. And like you said, and for the most part, there's no resolution. Even though I kind of think it cops out a little bit with the kind of like walking together, you know.
How's it cop out?
The him walking out with his girlfriend at the end down the hallway. That's like, really? After all this,
I was a little. I don't think I was disappointed in the end when I first saw it. I was surprised that it ends up being a psychological healing story.
Yeah, that it was so. I thought it'd be much more vague and more of a downer, or more, just a head scratcher.
I think I was just surprised that spoiler, which the spoiler alert we've had for this whole show, the skin disease gradually gets better.
Yeah.
And you just thought that was natural. I assumed it was going to get worse, or it was going to lead to some kind of more tragic, sadder ending.
Yeah, that's why I remember talking about his one-on-one duels with Bill Patterson. I thought that was going to
Can we say what the reveal about his mother is?
Sure, I think we should. I mean, well,
it's crazy how pedestrian it's revealed, to the point where like
you saw
watching the second time, I was like, am I just missing something? And then they say it, and you're like, oh, of course. She committed suicide.
Yeah. And
she committed suicide by jumping in the river. And you see these recurring shots over and over and over of the detective story takes place, then find a body in a river.
Yeah, different women.
But different women.
Women in the river. So
it's the basis of one of his big novels.
Yeah. So, I mean, I kind of, it didn't shock me or didn't surprise me, because I just kept on going back to this visual. So
it's not revealed in a shocking way.
No, yeah. So, and then I might as well at this point throw in my third prisoner tie-in.
Okay.
We're talking about endings.
Mm-hmm.
So we have this big shootout in the hospital.
Okay.
And so we have a big shootout and fallout. And you don't expect a really big giant shootout in the prisoner, and you don't really expect a big shootout in the hospital room. So there you go. That's my other.
Well, I thought you were going to go with the other big piece of music that I wrote down is the final one. They actually had Vera Lynn do a version of Vera Lynn's singing "We'll Meet Again," which
I think of Kubrick. I think of Strange Love.
Yeah, it's obviously, but I don't know if there's been more usages than those two, but it feels like I've seen it used, and it's weird how such a song is now about wanton self-destruction or about the inability to change, because "We'll Meet Again" plays over the end of there's a montage either following after they walk out of the hospital or right before.
I think it's right, yeah.
It's like a ballad of delusional self-destruction.
And on a trivia side note, it's just so bizarre that within this day and age of Facebook, Vera Lynn just passed away like about a year ago or so.
I don't think I
made a little nod to her on my Facebook page. I was like, wow,
What was your nod? Based off this song, possibly?
It was probably the Kubrick, because it sounded like it was slightly different recording.
Oh, it's a different song or different recording, definitely.
Yeah,
but it is her.
Yeah. Oh no, I was looking at the credits of musician.
It's a totally different recording.
Yeah. So,
but.
And, oh, by the way, the shootout. Did you think that was kind of cute? There's two criminal elements running around, kind of little buddy guys in trench coats, and they're upset because they're never given names, and they're upset at Marlowe. Like, where's our names? You didn't even bother to give us names.
One of my things I love about this show more than anything else is how the writing happens on screen. You see a lot of early like Charlie Kaufman stuff here, like Potter's doing, and like people keep talking in their sentence with a dash question mark.
And of course, the prisoner time I just thought of too. Schizoid Man, when he has to face his dupe, and what happens in the shootout and Singing Detective.
This is what happens when you stop watching TV. After a while, you have only a few references that you can use.
Okay, no, but facing your doppelgangers. That goes back to the silent days. I'm sure.
Yeah, I had a lot of notes on this, but I think I'm winding down. Are you?
No, I mean I'm fine, but I'm curious. Is look at your notes. I'm kind of curious to see if there's any other high point in your notes.
High point
that you haven't discussed. You brought up.
The ends of it is structured in a weird the cliffhangers. Every episode does have a cliffhanger, and it's usually done in a very oblique psychological thing, like the tree from the beginning, or there's a recurring thing with the mother where before you find out the suicide, you keep seeing her yell over a shot of a train of a underground tube, and they take, I think it's the second to last, penultimate episode reveals that he runs away to go back to live with his dad, and then it's where she decides to kill herself.
I guess, if we're wrapping up here,
or the little boy, the saddest parts is the little boy figuring out what happened on the desk in the schoolyard or with the teacher.
Yeah. Oh, the teacher. We didn't talk about her. Whew.
What
a character. What an actress. I mean, in fact, I thought it was a guy sometimes in a drag. She is a piece
convincing.
The character is a piece of work and kind of the most scariest character in the whole series for me. She very stern, but she starts out really kind of like getting them all riled up about if we're going to win the war because he's going to school during World War II.
I remember the scene where she's teaching kids about a leaf, and then she hits a kid because he doesn't know one of the two colors she said like 30 seconds earlier.
Yeah. But I was going to say, just basically, if we're winding down here, is that why would you go back and watch a 1986 series? I think you'll be pleasantly surprised and enjoy it because it takes you, I think, on a really nice roller coaster ride of emotions, and you can see, you feel.
You're recommending it?
Yeah, I know, definitely. I mean, I will watch this again. In fact, I hope they remaster it and give us a nice Blu-ray.
It would be nice if they remastered it.
But the use of the music and you got some great actors in here, the cream of the crop of the UK. Some of them in their early stages of their career, and I think it's a G.O.A.T. I think it's up there.
Okay.
Don't you think so? You don't put it up that high now that you've revisited it?
Because of the fever dream aspect to it, like it wasn't the most like enjoyable, easy to get through watch. Because it really is, you don't have any character to like. There's some of the hospital stuff you're pretty clear. I think this is really happening, but everything else, you're just like a character just completely changed their identity from scene to scene.
I think that's kind of the beauty of it. I think.
It's definitely the beauty of it.
I mean, and it kind of you don't have an anchor. That's for sure. You don't get to perch yourself solid when you're watching this.
Right.
And that.
My hesitancy means that it was still kind of difficult sometimes to watch.
So maybe that's why they wanted to kind of have a resolution at the end. And of course, the beauty of The Prisoner, I think it's cyclical. It's like, no, there's not a resolution technically. There it is on the surface, but it's not. This one, maybe it's just the opposite or something. I don't know, but it's. I think it's deserves to be in the Hall of Fame of all-time television series.
Yeah, I wish I had a better. Like with film, when you have the G.O.A.T, you have the Sight and Sound poll that's done every 10 years. So you can figure out.
You can use it as a reference point. I mean, I don't know. Do you think that's the be all end all?
I think I've done this rant on here before. How angry I am that Vertigo's now. I don't even like Vertigo. I'm not a big Vertigo fan. Like Vertigo's not. I'd argue Vertigo's not even one of my 5 favorite. It's barely my top 5 of Hitchcock movies in the 50s.
I'm surprised at that. I would think you would be a Vertigo person. I have a lot.
Vertigo's problem is that it puts the subtext of all Hitchcock movies as the text.
Right. Well, I think that's most of my friends don't like it or don't consider.
It's got this. It feels like 2 different movies. I don't understand in the second half. I don't understand exactly why. Unless you go into obsession, why it has what the motor is.
I think it's just. It's
a great movie. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying it's not the greatest movie.
I think it's because it's so personal and it's so subtextual that's why it doesn't entertain.
But it's not subtextual.
I mean.
How interesting do you find one man's obsession with blondes?
Well, I mean, I don't think I've got. I've never. I don't think I've. To me, Vertigo is a work in progress with me.
You change your opinion.
I need to keep on watching it and thinking about it and
Well,
analyzing it.
this
Whereas Rear Window is just love. North by Northwest is a perfect film. Psycho is what it is. All these other Hitchcock films are they just you don't have to work much at all. Vertigo,
Right.
you got to work with it.
To bring it back to Singing Detective, I think that powerful men writing. Well, actually, maybe I shouldn't put powerful in front of it. Men writing about women and their sexual obsessions. This is something when I was younger I found more interesting than I do now. And when I first saw this, I thought it was revealing. Now there's something to it, but it's just like there's something weird about something that feels autobiographical, where your main character just keeps calling everyone a bitch.
Well, I mean, I don't. I guess I don't have that problem like you do. I don't know how to answer that.
No.
I mean, it's going to be.
I think
the prism of 2021. Things are going to be so different to watch these things sometimes now.
That's fine. That's how something ages. It's something doesn't. If that's how art ages.
Right, but it could age.
There's the argument that you have to give it its original context, and then there's the argument like you enjoy what you enjoy, and there's stories that survive and stories that don't.
And you think that maybe this doesn't survive?
No, because it's funny because I went on this rant and I'm still in the middle of my recommendation, kind of. I just had to. I made this observation. I think this is a very rich, really complex show. And at the time, even in 2003, when this DVD came out, there wasn't a lot of that out there. There wasn't the feeling of novelistic film. And going back to my point I said right at the beginning, I think we have a lot of that now.
Yeah.
So that I guess that we have an embarrassment of riches.
Yes,
this thing that kind of maybe was for the longest time a template for that. There's sharper stuff out now than that. Maybe.
Oh well, yeah, but that's.
Which actually next week's gonna be my pick. So
well, but this was your pick too.
This is my pick too, even though I had my odd methodology of like this is just something I'd heard people said was the greatest show of all time, and I loved it when I first saw it, and I still like it a lot.
I mean, because it's really that's trick. My top 10 TV shows are kind of tricky.
But
or someone just because tyranny nostalgia, my trademark.
You also have the thing where you refuse to have the internet at the house, so you have to go through your Blu-rays.
I don't refuse to have it. I'm just at this point, I've not bothered with it.
So you have to wait till a Blu-ray set comes out, even with streamers stuff.
Right. With TV, yeah. I just, like I said, what was a few episodes. I think I said this on one of our episodes, but I watched The Nick finally because I
think The Nick's going to come up next week too.
I've been coming up with a DVD. I've had the DVD box sets of it. I'm sitting on a Soprano box sets. I'm sitting on the 6 Feet Under. I got. At first, I was buying them up, originally, but then now you can't keep up with them. There's just like 5 million of them out there.
No, Sopranos and 6 Feet Under ended a long time ago.
I know, no, but I mean, as the years progressed, I had to stop buying box sets because I can't.
I think the end point I want to make is that this GOAT series isn't necessarily our GOATs, although both our GOATs are going to be on this, but it's also, I think specifically for this one, it's what other people have considered GOATs at a certain point.
Yeah, and my top 10, a lot of it's just favorites, personal favorites that I can't say that's great television, but it's just like an example would be The Wonder Years. I just love that show.
You do love The Wonder Years. Are you going to watch that remake?
What is it? Oh no, yeah, I heard about that.
I guess what my issue because I mentioned this earlier. We have two episodes have been British imports. This one's a miniseries. They both have endings, so that works for us. And they're both relatively cinematic for their time.
Yeah.
But I don't know exactly. We just picked 3 shows to talk about random 3 shows, but I don't know how you pick the greatest show of all time. Like, because from around this time, there's another cinematic show that is not an American show that has stood the test of time. I'm talking about Kieslowski's The Decalogue, which I know you love.
You bring that up, boy. Phew. Yeah, that's a mountain. That's a holy grail of TV.
I mean, we're opening the can of not American show. I I don't know how sharp my thinking is on why we chose. I just chose 3 stuff,
Mhm.
and like I picked your favorite show, I picked my favorite show, and I picked something in between that no one talks about The Singing Detective anymore. That's another issue.
That's true. That's good.
No,
Yeah.
and maybe it's because it's not streaming, but no one brings it up anymore. Maybe that's the reason why I'm glad we're talking about this.
And speaking of this, bringing up stuff, the Decalogue. What the unique thing about the Decalogue is that it got a famous director to write something about it.
Oh, Kubrick?
Yeah, I mean, it's
So
like
Kubrick was notorious for never writing forewords, and he's like, and in his foreword to that, he's like, I'm making an exception.
he made but he did a forward for the.
It's very short.
For the collection of screenplays, teleplays, and the book of Decalogue. So that's pretty cool. That's a nice pedigree to have a blurb,
Right.
a Kubrick blurb for your book.
Yeah, and we on our Eyes Wide Shut episode, we mentioned my love for that book, Eyes Wide Open, written by Frederick Raphael, and he makes Frederick Raphael watch the Decalogue.
Well, the Decalogue too is like he really hit a weird, interesting peak that translates into the films that follow that.
Or the expansions of the Decalogue, even.
Yeah, the 2 films that he made, out of that. So yeah, but TV is like where do sitcoms come into play? On G.O.A.T. And there's all kinds of stuff.
Because the problem is also that being in the idiot box, it's so easy, and being a really cool medium that it makes people passive. So people want comfort food in the background. So it's easy for people to say like, just something that I don't appreciate, I just have on in the background is good, versus something that is good.
Yeah.
I mean, that's always been the problem with TV forever until they started realizing like, wait a minute, there's an actual. For one, if you make it more of a writer's medium and you don't fixate on like just selling shit, like it's TV's kicking movies ass right now.
Well,
it's been kicking movies ass for a while, even if it's like I think peak TV starting to wane.
And the sitcom type stuff. I mean, we're starting to get things like Seinfeld, Curb Your Enthusiasm, which is a different. This is not Leave It to Beaver,
Well, when you said the sitcom, my brain went to Cheers.
Oh well, yeah. And then things that we haven't even talked about. I mean, just we're going off on a whole TV tangent here. We maybe just do a giant.
It's almost as if there's episodes about TV.
Yeah, Outer Limits is one of my favorites.
Not Twilight Zone, Outer Limits.
Well, that's I'm gonna people are gonna kill me if I reveal myself here, but I didn't grow up with Twilight Zone. They wasn't playing in Evansville when I was a kid, or my dad never had it on. Mm. And so we saw Outer Limits, and that did a number on me. So I'm very biased in Outer Limits, and I've only gotten to Twilight Zone and just little tidbits here and there as an adult.
Well, when I was trying to find out who wrote the essay that mentioned Singing Detective as the best TV show of all time, one of the things I looked at that I thought might be in Peter David has an essay in Harlan Ellison's published version of his script version of The City on the Edge of Forever, the Star Trek thing. I thought he mentioned it in there. And I was reading Ellison talking about writing in the 60s and Outer Limits. And, he's bragging. He's like, I'm 30 and I have a WGA award by now, or however many he had at that point.
The show,
Star Trek should have been one of.
Well, it's classic Star Trek. I mean, that's high in my pantheon of TV shows that I love. But there's some TV movies. I mean, I still say to this day, one of the best TV movies, and it's the network, and it was the most watched when it aired, is The Night Stalker. The first Night Stalker. It's just wonderful, and I think it still holds up, believe it or not. It's a series that kind of, everybody has there's a lot of people out there very fond of the series, but
especially X-Files fans.
Yeah, but the first 2 TV movies before the TV series kicked in, I just love those, and I think the first one is solid piece of work.
I think there's a lot of people in my more scholar points. I would have argued. I maybe at one point said my favorite Spielberg movie is Duel.
Well, yeah, and then there's all kinds of forgotten series, like another one about the Night and Days of Molly Dodd with Blair Brown. Is that even on your radar at all?
No.
Yeah, and that's a nice little cool show that needs to be. And David Strathairn. Huh. Sorry, guys, David Strathairn. I'm one of his biggest fans, and I can't get his first name right.
I think you dropping off of TV and me not. There's only so much you can watch, so making a pantheon is kind of hard. I think is the ultimate point. But we're not going to stop, and we're going to keep trying to next week, where we get to my favorite. Next week's my favorite.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting because I watched it back. I don't know, was it a year ago that I watched it, or 6? 8
I thought you
months?
watched it really quickly.
I did go.
I'm still trying to not say it too.
Yeah.
So
Oh, really?
we're being
Okay.
coy. So, but and
Interesting.
we're doing a good job at it, not saying.
Yeah.
So tune back in next
I
week.
can't
to find
remember.
out.
I can't remember the title of it actually. So.
You're kidding.
No, I'm thinking of a different word for it for some reason. So.
I think now is the time to check out.
Yes.
This is time to wind down. Thank you everyone for listening. Ted, thanks for doing this. Be seeing you.
Be seeing you.